Hello, I'm Jane Mullins, founder of Finding the Light in Dementia Training and Wellbeing Hub. In this short film, I'd like to give you a flavour of some of the materials and resources that we have on offer in the training and in the Wellbeing Hub. Finding the Light in Dementia Training consists of 6 modules, each with its own activity book, reflective diary, and on successful completion of an assessment, a certificate for each trainee. Our brains are absolutely amazing at helping us think, feel emotion, behave, sense the world around us and move. They control our memory, thoughts, speech and movement and the organs in our bodies. This includes heartbeat, breathing, digestion, ability to swallow and our waking and sleep cycle. It also helps control our movements, temperature, keeps our posture and balance and coordination of muscles. Damage to our temporal lobes can lead to problems in understanding what is being said to us. This is known as receptive aphasia. It can also cause difficulties with attention to what we see and hear, ability to retain new information, recognise faces, and responsible for some emotional changes. Due to the damage in the brain because of the dementia, pain may also be experienced differently. Due to the changes in the person's nervous system, they may have a reduction of naturally occurring pain relievers in the brain, and changes in the nervous system due to different types of dementias may affect how a person perceives pain, how they experience it, and we need more research in this area. Let's listen to what Andy has to say. Andy has Lewy body dementia and a chronic pain condition.
I experience excruciating pain when my CRPS flares up. And I worry that when I'm not able to communicate as well as I am now, I could tell the carer that I'm in pain. So I would hope that they would recognise through agitation, irritation, that I am perhaps in pain, and that might be the cause.
I very quickly learned how important it was for us to know about a person's background, especially when they've been through major stresses and trauma in their lives. Jim came to our home from hospital quite suddenly. We didn't know anything about him other than he'd been in hospital with an infection, and the hospital needed to find somewhere for him to be discharged to. We couldn't get hold of any of his family as they were travelling back from Australia where his daughter now lived. We tried to help him settle in, but he seemed very unhappy, and then at tea time, he exploded into a rage, knocking the teacup out of our hands and becoming very upset. I had heard about Sundown Inn and always noticed that some of our residents would become a bit unsettled early evening, but his reaction was quite violent, thrashing out and shouting at us. We felt helpless and we were a bit scared. No one wanted to go anywhere near him. It happened at other times of the day too. After a couple of days, his daughter arrived and sat down with us and told us Jim's heartbreaking story. He'd been a prisoner of war in the Far East on a tea plantation, where he'd been tortured, starved and watched his friends and army colleagues die. Somehow he survived, and when the camps were liberated, he came home. He vowed never ever to drink tea again in his life. That's all the family knew of his experience, as he never spoke of it again. There had always been a sadness around him, his daughter told us. Offering him a cup of tea at tea time and throughout the day triggered very painful memories where he'd been enslaved. And as he was in a new place, we think he might have started feeling imprisoned again. It all made sense once we knew. It took a while for Jim to settle in and trust us. We focused on other positive parts of his life, as he'd also been a keen footballer, so with the help of his daughter we managed to find old football collector's cards and other memorabilia from his favourite team. We respected that he would often want to be alone, and we did not want to ever make him feel those feelings that he had during the war again. And we never ever offered him a cup of tea again. And we wrote this into his care plan.
All the sensory stuff, like losing my sense of taste and smell, I didn't know that was linked to dementia. And so many people are just apathetic. And some people think we're being awkward. And I don't think that they realize that it's linked to the dementia. And it's all about, words do matter, don't they? Because I can remember there's, you know, when you get into that conversation with somebody and they say, I've told you that. And you say, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. Yes, you have. No, I haven't. So now we just decided that I'll say, well, if you have told me that, I can't remember it. And that diffuses the situation. Because sometimes I think people do think that we're just being awkward and we're being difficult. And we do remember, but we're just saying that we don't remember. So yeah, encouragement, and that'll help with apathy.
Learning all we know about our environment, particularly in the context of our lives, and trying to create this sort of safety and normality of what we want to keep in life. What happens then when somebody has dementia? How does that affect their communication?
The first thing to say is, of course, there are lots of different types of dementia, and so it's not easy to kind of just talk about it as a single thing. But I'll focus here on the ones that most affect communication, and there are various things that are fairly common.
The Hub also offers interviews with Mary Evans, mental health nurse and founder of the Well Nurtured Mind. Here, Mary, who has over 30 years' experience in providing advice, guidance and coaching to all grades of staff, gives us the tools to help us with stress, overwhelm, guilt and a sense of being out of control. In these interviews, she shares her expert knowledge and experience of supporting health and social care managers on managing challenging situations, many of which impact on the well-being of staff, along with providing 2-minute self-care hacks for all.
Learning how to breathe properly. Now, it seems like such a basic thing, a simple thing, a stupid thing maybe to say, because we're all breathing. However, one of the things we know, that when we're stressed, when we're anxious, when we're overwhelmed, if you stop yourself for a moment, what you often find is that your breathing is more shallow, more rapid than usual, or you might find yourself when you're in a stressful situation, you have these moments where you realise you're actually holding your breath and you hadn't realised until the situation was over that you've actually been holding your breath. And that's a common sign of a symptom of stress. We do know over a period of time, obviously that's not really good for our health and well-being. So I would really urge everyone, if you can learn a simple, either a mindfulness technique, again, the Wellbeing Hub has some really great signposting activities around this. The breathing. So if you are in a situation you think to yourself, well, all these things sound great in theory, but I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to be sitting there and learning to breathe. I don't have time to cook healthy. I don't have time. These things we're discussing today is not about adding an extra chore. It really is about tweaking your existing lifestyle, things that we do every day, and adding them on to something we're already doing. And let me just give you a quick example of what this might look like in real life, not just in theory.
The other thing that I want to say to care staff is that in my experience, a lot of your grief won't be recognised. It won't be recognised by relatives because they think you're there, you're doing a job, and they don't realise, I think, always how close you get to your residents, you know. And you know, having worked in hospice for so long, you could always tell when a patient had died if they were young and they'd left young children and so on, because the atmosphere of the building changed. You know, you could sense it in the air that the staff were grieving and they were all sad. And you know, I can't imagine what it's been like in care homes where there's been a lot of deaths, so that kind of level of sadness. So I really want to say to you, you know, that it's important that your grief is recognised. It's important that, you know, that relatives learn that, you know, you're grieving as well as them. And the other thing I'm aware of is that many care home staff have also lost people in the pandemic. So they're dealing with their family grief as well as their work grief.
As well as expert support, the Wellbeing Hub provides mindfulness and relaxation films and audios to help staff learn practical ways of self-care, all exclusively created for Finding the Light.
I'm Julia Powell. I cared for my lovely mum who lived with dementia. For my mum, dementia meant huge levels of anxiety. She was really frightened on times. And for me as her carer, I sometimes got caught up in the emotions. I found my mindfulness practice really helped to ground me and make me more stable, which was much better for her and it was better for me. So if you're a carer for either a family member living with dementia or working in dementia care, you might find that mindfulness is helpful for you too. I also actually guided my mum in practices and was quite encouraged to find how they helped her.
So lastly, let's hear from some of our contributors. Some are living with dementia, others are caregivers and professionals, telling us about the importance of understanding what matters to a person most.
Marmite.
So I have a photograph of my family wearing silly hats, which kind of sums the girls up.
My little crystal guardian angel. I look at crystals and things quite a lot. Smells are important to me. So along with this crystal, I think what's important to me is the smell of lavender.
I was a landscape gardener for 20 something years. So I love the outdoors.
I've been to a few groups for people with dementia. It's all things like Vera Lynn, World War II stuff. I'm only 57 years old. I don't want to hear that sort of stuff. I want to hear my generation of stuff like, and because of that, I've never actually went back. I just thought, oh, again, that's not what I want to hear. You have to get to learn to know the person, know their likes and dislikes. It's as simple as.
What's important in terms of whether it's our memory, what's important to me, or what's my favourite things, what connects me, is that whole host of trying to understand the person as a collective, a whole person, and not just one aspect of that person.